Alaska, Life on the Edge, brought to you by the Fairbanks Convention and Visitors Bureau.
It was a Monday afternoon around 4 o'clock on August 26, 1901, when E.T. Barnett, his hysterical wife, and a ton of supplies were put off the stern-wheeler Lavelle Young near this location. And from that unimpressive start, the mining settlement that 2 years later would become Fairbanks began to grow. It wasn't long before outside money began to flow into town. Roads were constructed, rail beds were laid, and in the 1920s, airstrips were established. From the Morris Thompson Cultural Center, we're taking a look at early transportation in interior Alaska on this edition of Alaska Life on the Edge, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It was from this location, now the Nolwein Public Library, that a lot of Alaska's early aviation history was made. The first commercial flight in the state, the first flight from Fairbanks to Anchorage, and the first flight from Alaska to Seattle. Aviation first from names we know so well, like Carl Ben Eielson, Harold Gillum, Marvel and Joe Crossan, and of course, Nolwein, who came to town in 1924 and had his pilot license signed by Orville Wright. Today, aviation continues to play a huge role in Alaska. The state is home to 6 times more licensed pilots per capita than any other state in the country. In fact, the other day, I got to go flying.
I love seeing people learn to fly, to realize the dream, because for most that are doing it, it's a dream. I myself, I loved learning to fly. It was just an amazing experience, and my first solo, I felt like I was on top of the world. I think flying is simply a side of what a lot of people live here for. It's the ability to get away from the hectic city, and just to get out and enjoy the country. And so I don't necessarily think it's flying in Alaska that people are addicted to. It's getting away from everything and spending time out in the country, and the hunting and the fishing and everything like that. And flying merely provides a way to expand that. It's what flying allows for that people are addicted to. When I was flying medevacs, there were a lot of nights, 2, 3 in the morning, that pager starts going off. You crawl out of bed and it's dumping snow and crummy, and it's like, here we go. You take off, you climb up, and you end up climbing above the clouds, and the stars are out. It's just smooth as can be, northern lights. I'm reminded over and over again of why I keep doing this, why I love to do it.
One of the earliest modes of transportation here in Alaska was by a narrow gauge railroad based here in Fairbanks and pulled by this very simple engine behind me. Engine number 1 was the first steam locomotive in Fairbanks and the Yukon. The railroad operated for a dozen years, servicing the goldfields north of town before going bankrupt. Today, a replica of Engine 1 still operates just north of town and every summer takes visitors on tours of the old Fox Goldfields and of course the historic Gold Dredge number 8.
Yeah, the rail bed actually started in a little place called Chena, a little town called Chena, which was along the Tanana River there, and basically they had a spur going into Fairbanks as well a little later, but it came all the way up to Chattanooga. They came up through Olness Pond up here, Gilmore, and the thing about the Tanana Valley Railroad when it started, it wasn't just for bringing supplies in, it actually brought people in too. They actually had flat cars where they're bringing in material and steel and iron, but they also had a passenger car on board too, where they would actually bring in workers and people that were getting back into the Chattanooga area. And what we're doing here at Gold Dredge 8 here with the Tanana Valley Railroad is people can sit on the train and they can actually take a look at the brush that these people had to cut through. They did have their series of obstacles to overcome with the permafrost, and of course once World War I hit, the economics kind of changed a little bit. There was gold mining was starting to taper off a little bit, and they had a hard time making ends meet. But if these railroads hadn't have went forward, if the Alaska Railroad hadn't have purchased, actually the U.S. government purchased the Tanana Valley Railroad, then it later turned into the Alaska Railroad, I think Fairbanks and the surrounding area would have looked a lot different today.
One of the wonderful aspects of living in Alaska is that much of our history is still around us, if you know where to look. A bowling alley that was previously a hangar, a Model T that came up the unpaved Richardson Highway, or a steam locomotive that used to work the Fox Goldfields are still here, reminding us of our heritage.
For more information on these and other Fairbanks destinations, go to explorefairbanks.com.
First, from names we know best, like Carl Ben Eielson, Harold Gillum. Hello. Thank you.
Say hi, Barb.
Hi. Water break.